A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Fourth Estate. Charles Mwangusha Mpagi, and with me in studio tonight, we'll continue the tracking of the political campaigns, and we're asking the question, has it reached that critical turning point? A BIM hospital visit by Dr. Kizza Besigye, the reaction of the cow, and now the reaction of other people, including the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health. Will that begin the definition of an issue-based campaign? And of course, we saw that Amama Mbabazi followed up that immediately, and government was following it up immediately, with attempting to make a visit to Kabale Hospital, which was blocked by police deployment around the hospital and the whole debate. Now, President Yoweri Museveni is threatening to arrest Dr. Kizza Besigye for some of the comments he has made. Is the field being defined, is what we'll be discussing. And to discuss that, let me start by introducing Moses Kizza, making a return after, are you on summer?
No. I've taken a winter break from school.
Winter break.
Yep.
From school. Okay. I thought the others come during summer so you can
Yeah, summer is the longer, stay away from school, but this one is a short one.
Moses Kizza is a PhD student in Chicago, the United States of America, and has been a guest on this show before. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
You also write a column for the Observer newspaper.
Correct.
Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
Ofono Opondo. He is executive director of the Uganda Government Media Center, but also spokesperson of the National Resistance Movement. You can see he's clad in the party colors. It's campaign season, everybody's wearing. I wish I'd invested in yellow shirts.
He's a historical, post-1986 historical.
I am actually one of the founders of the NRM party.
Which NRM?
NRM, I qualified Kizza, PhD. Your PhD should be able to help you. There's the NRM, the historical.
That's why I was asking. Which NRM?
And the NRM party of 2003.
Is that one of the 1 million signatures that were taken?
No, not just 1 million. I am among the 200, what we call the promoters, and now a life member of the National Conference.
This Serena.
Yes.
But when
I am a life member of the National Conference of the NRM.
Wow.
When you started it, Ofono, you called it NRMO, and later on withdrew that O. Why?
Well, I can tell you that your PhD should help you. We have never called national...
What do you have against the PhD?
Yes. So if you're a PhD, you should speak facts.
But that's a fact.
Your analysis should not be colored. National Resistance Movement has never been National Resistance Movement. No. It has been National Resistance Movement.
Who needs to speak facts?
And we abbreviated it as NRM. So when he says that we called it NRMO and we removed the O, that is inaccurate.
Mr. Pondo, who is actually lying here? Because as a journalist, I covered the registration of the National Resistance Movement Organization, the papers that were submitted to the then registration of political parties desk at the Registrar General's office, which was based at Crane Bank, at the Crane Chambers. And it was NRMO.
I don't have a lot of faith in your level of journalism. Yes.
No, Charles, can we go on with the show, please?
I don't have a lot of faith in your level of journalism. I am telling you, and I can challenge you, that we go tomorrow, we inspect the same documents that Amama Mbabazi, Haji Chigongo, and Jabir Bidandisari filed. It was National Resistance Movement, and is abbreviated as NRM. It was you, the media, which coined. Because you remember, NRM said, instead of calling ourselves a party,
we'll call ourselves an organization.
And you, the media, then coined that organization into O. It was your coinage, not ours.
Okay, yes. Now that you doubt my journalism and you say it was you, the NRM, who decided instead of calling ourselves a party, we'll call ourselves an organization, and you blame the media. Let's not get into that debate.
We've already got into it.
Yes, we can come into that later. Let me introduce Onapito Ekomoloit, Corporate Affairs Director, Narborough.
I was a silent observer during the formation of the NRM, so I won't comment.
And it was all or...
No comment.
I want to start with you. Do you think, we were debating just before you came on air, do you think the incidents like a BIM, Kabale, define a turning point in the campaign, that it will now focus on the more serious candidates, it will focus on the issues that need definition in this election?
Unfortunately, no.
No.
I think these issues have always been there. I think the opposition have tried to frame this election as being about NRM's poor delivery in terms of health, in terms of education. So even if Dr. Besigye goes to a hospital and shows its shambolic nature, I don't think it's anything dramatic which is not known. I think even the independent media like the NTV has been showing this kind of pictures.
And the president went and said the NTV is an enemy TV.
To me, the
monitor
presidential election in this country will always inherently be a personality contest. I mean, people will be looking at who are the individuals. And President Museveni knows very well that it is a personal brand for him. What has kept him in power is about himself. I mean, very few voters really, at the end of the day, when they're ticking, worry. They know those problems are there, but they look at, is this the individual whom either I fear or I love, and that's what they decide.
So were you surprised by the reaction of the chief administrative officer?
I'm not surprised. Normally, natural civil servants, you can appreciate they go into a panic mode. I mean, what will they think? My hospital has been shown as being in a bad state, my nurse has been speaking. And it's also possible that some people in the NRM camp may have silently protested to the hospital administration that why did you allow Besigye to come and show what you showed. So it's possible. Nobody may now own in public, but I believe the hospital guys went into a panic mode, and that's why they are making those rational decisions.
Before I go to Kisa, let me come to Opono. I listened to you on Capital Gang yesterday, and I said I hadn't had a more sober discussion of the ABIM issue in a very polarized partisan environment like now. What does that say about the level of the campaigns? That because a candidate has gone to visit a place, obviously we should give him some mileage, knowing that the state in which it was, but will that refocus the campaign more?
Well, first of all, I want to slightly disagree with Honor. This campaign is about issues and also personality of the leaders who are in the contest. And if you look at the campaigns of 2011, by the way, Mr. Kizza Besigye did exactly what he's doing now. In 2011, if you do recall, Kizza Besigye went to a primary school, a government primary school, which still has grass-thatched classrooms in Mubende. And that classroom had the walls mud and it has holes. You do recall that in the same Mubende, Kizza Besigye went to a grass-thatched homestead where he found a woman and her children eating dinner at about 4 p.m. But they were eating sweet potatoes and salt in water. And Kizza Besigye was talking about service delivery, poor service delivery, poor attention to Uganda and poverty. The same things he's doing now. As you do recall, Kizza Besigye never got even 10% of the votes in Mubende. So I think the candidates going to these places should be a normal thing. After all, our media is fairly penetrative these days. And as Ona has said, the NTV has been serializing health centers of different categories. Health Center 2, Health Center 3, Health Center 4, and hospitals. And showing what has been done and what hasn't been done. You do recall about 4 months ago, NTV did Health Center 4 in Kabarore, where they showed graphic detail of how the place had been abandoned. About 2 months ago, they did Kamuri, where the hospital ambulance had been left in the bush and goats had climbed on the hospital ambulance.
No, the hospital ambulance had been abandoned and the bush had grown around it.
Yes. And the goats were on that ambulance. So I don't think that's going to change the dynamics. I think Ugandans do know the issues they want attended to, They do know the gaps. I think on the side of the government and therefore NRM, what has been and what is lacking has been consistent explanation on the things we have not done properly. And I want to admit that that's where perhaps Kizza Besigye beats us. He goes to the hospital which is not done, but doesn't go to the hospital which is done. Of course, that shouldn't be his work. It shouldn't be his work, especially the one that has been done. That should be my work. That should be the NRM work. That should be the civil servants' work. And therefore, the civil servants, as they are trained, first of all, they are trained never to speak to anybody in the media. They are authorized persons who should take visitors around. And more so when a visitor has camera people. And so that cow went into that panic mode. I think he should have known that this is the campaign time. Even when the nurse did that, I think he shouldn't have taken the kind of action he wanted to take. But I think Mr. Moses, the cow?
Kaziba.
I think he was trying to hide his own incompetence, his own failure. Because first of all, Abim Hospital has been getting routine money every year, at least to do basic things, like fumigation, slashing the compound. And I think that cow was trying to hide his incompetence, his failures to do
so
those
he
things.
Had been exposed.
He had been exposed. Two, let it be recalled that same Abim Hospital has come up for discussion in Parliament twice. Mid last year, the Committee on Health, chaired by Dr. Mona, visited Abim, found the same things, wrote a report. There was a 2-day debate in Parliament, after which they made the recommendations. Early this year, around April, the Committee on Government Assurance again went to Abim to try and check whether the recommendation they had made last year had been followed through by government. And there was another extensive debate. So it looks like even the politicians don't remember even what they have. They forget quickly what they have done themselves. Therefore, basically going to this hospital shouldn't have taken many people by surprise, because this matter had been debated in Parliament twice.
And maybe to add to that same cow, Kaziba Nandala, was a cow who appeared before a committee of Parliament and said records of another place he was in charge of had been eaten by termites. Is it the same person?
He's the same person, and by the way, he is actually the one, that cow is residing in the doctor's residence in Abim.
Amazing, Mr. Pondo.
He is residing in the doctor's residence.
We're discussing issues here, Moses, before I come to you.
Yeah.
Amazing that you can outline all those issues and then still expect that Ugandans will give your candidate who's been presiding of the diversity from Kabarole through Kamuli to Abim. And all those failures.
Well, it just proves my point that this election
and this is what I'm saying. Why the people will give this candidate Yoweri Museveni the vote is that this candidate Yoweri Museveni has not hidden these issues. He has been talking about them, that there are government officials who are paid, but they are sleeping on the job. If Museveni had been hiding, had not been telling the Ugandans the truth, then they would deny him the vote. But Ugandans know that Museveni has been castigating public servants who are either wasteful
Mr. Pondo,
or sleeping on the job.
I want to put it to you that had that sanction or threat of sanction against the nurse come out and trended on especially social media, that is how people get silenced from talking the serious issues, because, I mean, now how do you explain the deployment at Kabale Hospital?
Well, I have not followed through, but what I have seen from the police has denied that they did not deploy. That was hospital security. I guess Kabale Hospital perhaps has policemen seconded to do security work, because that has been the explanation from the police.
So Kabale Hospital has a target of terrorists, so you needed special security to
well, I don't think wherever you find police, that means it is a special deployment.
But Mr. Pondo, how can you be so honest with one incident and decide to become less honest on
Charles, about the dishonesty?
Yes,
it is your view. I am telling you that first of all, as a person, I have not followed through the Kabale incident. I am telling you what the police has said.
Okay, does it surprise you that a hospital would have police security guarding it?
It wouldn't surprise me that
wouldn't have policemen at Mulago.
I'm sure there are policemen at Mulago.
There are no policemen at Naguru Hospital, for example.
No, what I'm saying, I know that there are policemen at Naguru, at Mulago.
There is actually a police post.
Yes, maybe they have not prevented the presidential candidate from entering Mulago. And the day they do so, then you will see their visibility.
Okay.
Yes.
Charles, you know, listening to Ndugu Ofono Pondo, he is a very interesting man. One point that he has underlined so strongly is that his government is run by incompetent people. That you have a cow in Abim who, despite his so many incompetencies, including having been in a previous district where records were eaten by termites, he moves on to Abim.
And those were records about 900 million shillings of taxpayers' money.
So that this cow, so incompetent, performs shambolically in one district, is taken to another district in Abim, where money, as Ofono was saying, routinely goes to the hospital, but nevertheless the hospital remains in very dilapidated conditions, and it takes the visit of a presidential candidate for the country to know the extent of how the hospital is in very bad
I want to dispute that because I've said
there
were two parliamentary debates. So it did not take basis for us to know that. I'm saying I'm surprised that you, who listen to the debates in Parliament, are surprised that that's the state of Abim.
Ofono, okay, hold on. You see, the issue had been in Parliament, but it hadn't attracted as much debate and national discussion as it has this time around. And so I was emphasizing that, you see, Vesige's visit to the hospital brought out fully the extent of the state of the hospital. Probably when it was discussed in Parliament, not as much was known about how the hospital was in very bad shape. But so the point I was emphasizing is that Ofono has told us that this cow, who is so incompetent, still remains a cow, chief administrative officer of a district. And that should tell us something about the caliber and quality of the government we have in Uganda today, which is a government run by administrators who are incredibly incompetent but can still keep their jobs.
Mr. Kisa, the question we're discussing, of course that's just an opinion of where you, in a campaign season, what you just said is sensitive and times suggest you disagree with certain things. My question to you gentlemen was, will this visit and these incidents, are they going to redefine the campaign? Or have we reached that critical stage since the nominations?
I was coming to that.
2nd and 3rd of November.
Yeah.
The nominations
I was coming to that, Charles.
Yes.
And I want to agree with what Onapito said at the beginning and disagree with Ofono. I don't think that elections in this country, especially presidential elections, are won on the superiority of policy alternatives and the quality of ideas about who is going to run a government better. I don't think that that's how the final outcome of elections are determined in this country. This issue of Abim may reignite debate and cause some excitement about the state of our health care system, which we know has been totally broken in many respects, but that it is going to become such a big determinant of the final outcome of the contest for president, I don't think so.
And the other major reason why it won't become a major determinant is because I don't even think people who are supporting Kizza Besigye or Amama think that they will actually be able to change the state of those hospitals. There is actually a lot of cynicism by the ordinary people, almost apathy to some extent towards any conviction that government is going to change this situation. They think all these guys just want to get an opportunity to be president, and fine, we may support them because they tell us what the problem is, but are they going to solve it? Unfortunately,
No.
Personally, I don't think. Because the crisis is that the opposition candidates are not stating any alternative delivery mechanism. Identifying a problem is not the biggest issue. But they think the current lethargic structure, where many of them are being participants, is going suddenly to become functional with them.
But I think
I
think somehow it works.
Charles, I just wanted to add.
Just a moment, because we need to take a break.
Yeah.
But let me just ask Mr. Pondo. So why, after 2 parliamentary debates and reports, that all of a sudden, because Besigye has visited the hospital, somehow, somewhere, money is found and sent to the hospital?
No, I don't. I think it is even possible that Besigye has learned one or two things from Ken Ruchamzi. You don't remember that when Ken Ruchamzi would go through the Ministry of Works and KCC, when he knows the road is about to be made.
Don't tell Ken that, because he doesn't support.
Then he goes and holds a strike in the middle of the road. It's like Panado Mugema, the MP for Iganga municipality. When he has known that the groundbreaking ceremony is about to be launched, then he goes and makes a strike in front of the hospital. So it is possible.
So this was a preemptive strike by Besigye?
It is possible that Besigye actually knew that something is in the pipeline, because ABIM is among the 16 hospitals that government announced a while ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, that are due for renovation under the World Bank funding, with Iganga, Kiriandongo, and others. It is possible that he knew. It is possible that he knew the actual date when this was going to be done.
Just put this on record.
Yes.
Of those 16 hospitals,
yes,
which other hospitals' money has been released?
I know for sure that Iganga work is already going on. I think when they released the list, they scheduled when will which hospital start. So at least I know for a fact that Iganga is already on. I know for a fact that Bijiri is already on. I know that Kiriandongo is about to be completed actually. Yes.
And you answered me here that it's not because someone was sitting on the money, but the embarrassment triggered the release.
I'm not sure about somebody sitting on the money. We all know that the government, particularly financial release system in this country, is still weak, is slow.
You'll correct that when we invite you. If once we establish the facts under which the money were released, we'll bring you back, and you might need to correct that. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I'll pick it up from there. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're asking the question, is this the critical moment when the campaign turns from crowds, the excitement of the crowds, to focus on the real issues? And does Dr. Kizza Besigye's visit to ABIM Hospital, the blockage of Amama Mbabazi from visiting Kabale Hospital, the release of the money to the ABIM Hospital renovation works, and the threat of sanction against the nurses, the 3 nurses who received and toured Besigye around the hospital, define or redefine this campaign? And especially when President Museveni says, I've been hearing Besigye has been talking about things, I am trying to find if I can't arrest him and put him in jail for making the statements that he's making. And you know, over the last quarter, I am beginning to wonder, am I seated with 2 Ofono Pondos? Because
no, but you see, Mr. B, I don't think you're getting the president in the right context. You see, Mr. Besigye, as I said, is a politician of color. In the last 2 campaigns, if you do remember, Besigye said Museveni had sold Lake Choga. He said Museveni had sold land in Teso. He said Museveni had sold Acholi land. None of which, of course, was true. But because his electioneering period, Besigye thinks that is his style. And I don't think we should pay a lot of attention to alarmist, false statements by candidates of that nature. Because even when he made those...
The hospital is not alarmist.
No.
It's not an alarmist statement.
I am saying, this is what I'm saying. And I agree with the owner that the cynicism, yes, you Besigye, you have gone. Do the people who are following you, or indeed the general population, believe that will all of a sudden drastically change things? Obviously, no. Now, I want to come to... I want to go to the one of Kabale.
The hospital?
Yes. Honorable Mbabazi...
You want to tell something about Kabale?
Honorable Mbabazi has been in this government for 30 years. There are 8 hospitals along the way as you go to Kanungu, starting with the Mengo Hospital. Go and check. Any of them where Mr. Mbawaz has even made a courtesy call in the visitor's book, where if he has signed, if he has visited any. And therefore, when Mbawaz goes to Kabale Hospital during campaigns, I'm sure the Bachiga are inside themselves are laughing at him because they know.
Why didn't you leave that to the Bachiga to laugh at him instead of deploying police?
I did not deploy police. I am saying, as I told you, I think...
You don't know.
Even that hospital administration, in my view, they should not have bothered with locking out Mr. Amama Mbawaz because health has never been his pertinent issue. so many people are laughing at him when he's talking about lifting people out of poverty. Many people are laughing at him when he's talking about caring about maternal health because these have never been his passionate issues. And therefore, I think we should just leave him. The voters will decide, will show you that these fellows...
let me ask this question. On what basis do you think, as the NRM, the voters are making their choice?
The voters are going to judge, and I think they should judge Museveni and NRM on the record of the 30 years. What has been achieved, so that what we are promising now is believable. And I want again to go back to what Honorable Onapito started with. There will be issues in this campaign. Take the example of the last election. Northern Uganda had not been voting Yoweri Museveni during the period of the war. Once the war ended, people returned to their villages. People found their land. People are now settled. Museveni's percentage went up.
Will he maintain it in this election?
I think Museveni is going to not just maintain, he will increase his share and percentage of the vote across the country.
We'll be discussing. One of the major campaigners for Amama Mbawaz is Norbert Mao, and unfortunately he's not a voter. We'll be discussing that in a moment. On what basis are the candidates presenting themselves to ask for this election? And given what has been going on over the last almost 2 months now?
Sure. I think that's an important question. Yeah, actually, that's what I wanted to comment on earlier. When I said that I do not think that elections in this country are determined on the basis of, the kinds of substantive policy issues that we're talking about, like health, the state of the healthcare system in the country. But nevertheless, I think it's an important point to note that so far, the candidates actually have been talking about the real substantive issues. So when Kizza Besigye goes to Abim Hospital, he's doing something for which many of his critics have faulted him for not doing, i.e., speak to the real socio-economic problems that the country face. Don't forget that Besigye...
Isn't he pandering? Because he went to Kanungu and got stuck on the road.
Right.
He jumped out of his car and decided to push a truck and say, you can see the state of the roads.
Well, you see, he's doing what a politician has got to do, i.e., highlight the chinks, the weaknesses in the armor of your opponent, the incumbent in this case. Of course, everything that is wrong in the country necessarily gets blamed on the incumbent. Okay? Yes. And the incumbent has no other way of responding other than say, well, yeah, things are bad, but there are also good things. And this is what Ofona is emphasizing. That,
yes.
That Besigye did not go to the good hospital, he went to the bad one.
Now, the question I would want to put to you there is,
yeah.
Does that on its own elevate the campaign? Does that determine whether more people come into Besigye's fold, for example? I think Onapito disputes that and says the record of the NRM is going to speak for itself, and people are going to look and say, yes, there is these weaknesses, and he says their infrastructure has not been effective enough to counter some of those accusations, but they don't shift the ground. And why?
Right. So I think that it, focusing on the state of the healthcare system in the country does elevate the real issues for which the campaigns should be focusing on. But as to whether actually that is going to determine the outcome of the election is a completely different matter. I don't think.
Agree with Ona on that?
I still agree with Ona, but you see, where I disagree with him, and I hope I got him right, is that in the election year, in the campaign period, okay, this is an important issue that has come up and is defining the debate. We are debating it here. It has been debated on social media and all over the place. And you know, people like Ofono have been commenting on it. You know, you had the PS of the Ministry of Health come out to say something about it. So it has definitely, you know, lifted the campaign in the sense that people are talking about there is a problem in our hospitals. Of course, we know that there are problems in our hospitals, but not all the time do we talk about actually the real problems when it is campaign time. You know, a lot of the time it's going to be over frivolous issues that really do not affect the ordinary person. But you know, I was emphasizing that that does not necessarily mean that such substantive issues affecting the country are going to be the basis on which people are going to pick a candidate on the final day, on the polling day of the campaign.
Let me come back to you. Granted, that's not going to be the basis, but it should be the basis. What does that say about our politics?
Yeah, it should.
Let me just put a little bit context in this. When Besigye first ran, the Ntunga Morukunjiri road hadn't been done. If you go there even today, though the government of Yoweri Museveni built that road, people call it Besigye Road. In Toro, where I come from, there'd never been a signal for Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UTV, as it was known then. Because Besigye was running, the signal reached there. So there are dividends that come out of political contestation. Yeah. The question is, why don't those substantive issues get elevated? Because in all the discussions you hear, you don't hear that we discuss the campaign manifestos presented by the NRM. They have a thick, nice manifesto. Amama Mbabazi and Go Forward released the manifesto. FDC and Kizza Besigye are running on the party platform. Venantius Badiamureba released the manifesto. Beno Niveraro is focusing on the farmers. I haven't known the manifesto of Maureen Chalia and Joseph Mabirizi. I haven't encountered their manifestos yet. Why are we unable to lift those issues and bring them into the political play?
Charles, I think it's down to the nature of our society. Essentially, this is a feudal society. For all the pretensions to modernity, to democracy, people believe in a king. And the king, you may either you want to remove the king or you don't want to remove the king. What the king does is not so critical. He is there. So you find if you had to take elections in Africa at presidential level in terms of issues, essentially no incumbent would come back to office. Because we all know that there are so many things that could be done or that need to be done but have not been done. Much as the government has also done substantial amount of things. So if you are to really say, remove a president based on performance, many presidents would never get re-elected. But at the end of the day, it's a referendum on the president, but not so much on the performance of the government, but on whether people are ready to let go of that president. Or whether they even believe they can defeat the president. I think right now in Uganda there are two really major blocks that are determining whether this election. There are those who first of all ask, should we get rid of Yoweri Museveni? And they are quite a substantial block, and I think if you take regionally, there are a number of regions that are asking that question, and maybe most likely are going to answer that not yet, or even there is no need to. Then others are just saying, can Yoweri Museveni be defeated? And then they make a decision on that score. And if they feel it's pointless trying to defeat him, then people actually make decisions on that basis. That why try, you know? And somehow they take a decision.
So you think somehow on the basis of those two issues you raise, Museveni is home and dry? The way this campaign has been running.
The guy who speaks for him.
No.
You see,
he has his own assessment.
I don't know.
He has his own assessment.
The guy who speaks for him will say the obvious. That yes.
I've spoken for him before. So
no, look, I'll go back to my two blocks again. I sort of is it midway? I think the block which thinks Yoweri Museveni should not be removed, I think is still tilting the scales in my view. Yeah.
Charles,
let's come in and then I come to you.
Well, how do you judge the possibility of a candidate winning? Because we are not just running for the president. We are running for the other layers of government as well. If you look at it, the LC3, LC5 members of parliament, clearly those are already in favor of the NRM, which Museveni is now holding the flag, the top flag. And those are the foot soldiers, so to speak, that is going to knock on people's door to say NRM has a good plan for you. And this NRM is led by somebody we call Museveni, who's again a candidate and is asking for your vote. Those, let me just give you an example. If
I hear you. Do you really believe? I see where you're going.
Do you really believe, for example, that Kabale, Ibanda, Kabarole, Koboko, Buyende, Kiriandongo, Nakaseke, that returned MPs and LC5 chairpersons unopposed, are likely not to vote for Museveni? So I think, I hear you. Yes, there are strong voices that are saying it is time for Museveni to go, but they are not yet sufficient to tilt the balance.
I hear you. My question is, why are you concerned as NRM that people are not knocking on doors of people to say, look, this is what NRM promises to do in the next 5 years? Not to say, we're already strong and we think we're going to win, so simply vote for us.
I am afraid, although you belong to the other group, SEDU, which is asking people to come and vote, you are not aware that NRM is campaigning on a platform, steady progress, and a manifesto. And NRM, if you have listened to the presidential candidate of NRM and who speak for the NRM, we are saying what we have done, what is in the plan, and what, if you give us trust again, we shall do. So we are talking to the issues. It is you who's missing. I think you have not been listening to the NRM campaign.
I have been listening, and I asked myself.
And you haven't heard. You haven't heard Museveni talk about roads to be done, electricity lines to be done, water to be done, how he's mobilizing people to ensure that they earn money in their homesteads. You haven't heard Museveni talk about those issues. Those are the issues that will make Museveni be returned.
Moses, let me turn it to you. Instead of sharing my opinion, let me turn it to you. Yes, the NRM has a manifesto.
Yeah.
It's traditional for any group, individual, or entity in a campaign to have a manifesto.
Right.
Like Ona said, the NRM's run, whether at LC5 level or LC3 level, or parliamentary level or presidential level, should actually work more as a referendum on its deliverables over the last 5 years, the previous 5 years, the other 5 years, over a period of 30 years. The promises of the next 5 years are looked at and judged from that basis.
Right.
And the NRM, including the president, the presidential candidate rather, do not seem, in my view, to be focusing a lot on selling and saying, this we shall do, and accounting for what hasn't been done. Right. In a manner sufficient enough to make sure that a voter is going to go to the ballot booth.
Persuaded.
Persuaded by that.
Right. Yeah, you see, they are not doing that, Charles, for the simple reason that that is not what is going to determine the outcome of the election. Okay? The outcome of the election is going to be determined by about 2 or 3 factors. One is what Ona has touched on, and that is the perceived invisibility of General Museveni. Can he be defeated? Can he not be defeated? Many people will turn up to go and vote if they are convinced that Museveni can be defeated. They will turn up to go and vote for the opposition candidates. When the perception still holds that Museveni is invisible, Museveni is not going anywhere, and as you know, he has said many times that he cannot easily hand over power to a serious group of opposition leaders, and that he's going nowhere. He has his army, and that he's they say they say, I go away, you go where? I'm not going anywhere. So that perception that he has cultivated over a long period of time, coupled with him and people like Ofono presenting Museveni as the sole guarantor of security, peace and security in the country, and that without him, the country will return to supposed darker days of our past, where there used to be a lot of insecurity in the country. So that invisibility narrative is a big factor in this election and in the outcome of the election. Secondly, you see, don't forget that Kizza Besigye, Amama Mbabazi, and other candidates are competing against the state of Uganda. You see, the NRM, which is in charge of the state of Uganda and Museveni are using the state infrastructure and the state apparatus to run the campaign. Come polling day, that same apparatus will be at play. Opposition candidates can only, perform as much as they are able to match that state infrastructure, be able to deploy polling agents at all polling stations across the country. Do they have that capacity? Do they have the resources to mobilize their voters to turn up and go and vote and defend the vote, be there at counting time such that vote tallies are not altered, be able to track the transmission of vote results from polling stations to sub-county or district and to national? Are they able to say that what they got at the polling station in some rural village somewhere is what appears at national level, etc., etc. So that organization infrastructure during polling day is a key factor in the outcome.
Should those weaknesses or inadequacies of anybody standing in opposition be a factor to me as a voter? I gauge who I should give my vote if I can trust that they'll protect it.
Sure.
So if their failure to guarantee that they can protect the vote, doesn't that actually, rather than win them sympathy, drive people away, as Ona said?
Right. So that comes into the issue of, will people turn up to go and vote if they are not convinced that their vote is going to count? All right. If they think that they are going to vote, but their vote will somehow be altered or something like that, they are not going to turn up to vote.
Which I think, from what the other had that Fono talked about that I wear, which I think is a big mistake, because if you look at the numbers, about 5 million registered voters did not show up to vote in the last election.
In 2011, yes.
Which was a big mistake.
Right.
That someone thinks, it may not matter.
Right.
Me, I think everybody who has a vote should go out actually and cast their vote.
Yeah.
Whichever candidate they choose to cast their vote for can actually make the difference that they want casting that vote.
But you see, Charles, the rational voter, or a human being who is making a cost-benefit analysis, needs to be sure that their action is going to bear fruit. Their action is going to have a consequential outcome. If not, then they had better not to do anything. Now, if they realize, or at least if the perception, it might not be the reality, it might be the perception that casting my vote is going to be of no consequence. And we are talking about the environment, the environment in which the politics are being played, in which the campaigns are being held, and in which the voting will be held. The environment is one that is uncertain, that does not...
Which is the debate I think we want to go into. Ona, could you just hold your horses for a moment? Because we're going to say, to interrogate, did Norbert Mao make that rational... Was it a rational decision?
But before I just wanted to chip in just a small thing. The issue of money.
Let's pick that up. Let's pick that up after commercial break. We'll be right back in a moment. On and off the air debate that we're having here. I'm actually enjoying.
Tell the viewers what Ofon is doing to me in the break.
I'm enjoying this, because I think this is part of the discussion that needs to continue with our debaters. I wish we didn't have you to take these breaks.
All right.
But you're saying you guys are debating between, you are refusing to invoke. Ofono Opondo is invoking your PhD. He started by trying to intimidate me and my journalism. He doesn't want people to refer to him as a public servant.
You see Ofono is a man who will shoot you with a gun, or hit you with something,
with a
and say he has not intended you to know that. No. So he's hitting at you and hitting at me, but saying that no, he's not meaning to harm us.
You see, I was simply saying, for me, I want to give Ugandans the confidence that when they wake up, first of all, they should go and listen to all the candidates. They should go and vote, because nobody is going to tamper with their votes, either at the polling station or at the tally centers. That's the message really I want to give.
Unfortunately,
because the contenders, the political parties, must invest in the infrastructure. First of all, to mobilize the votes, but also to protect their votes. That's the confidence I want to give. No. And so I don't want to be a pessimist.
I just wanted to unfortunately, while you're absolutely right that there is no evidence, the candidates are not helping this argument. All the candidates President Museveni, Kizza Besigye, and Mama Mbabazi, they are all insisting. The president says the opposition has been rigging, and the opposition guys are, in fact, they are really building up for nothing but a rigged election.
Yeah.
They are telling their supporters,
Right.
and Mbabazi claims, you take care of the polling stations, I will take care of the computers. So clearly, they are telling people that the election is not going to be free and fair.
Now,
So I don't know now what to do. And it's quite worrying, you know.
One of the major campaigners for Mama Mbabazi is Norbert Mao.
Yeah.
In the Mao case, he forgot to take care of the computers.
He was rigged out by. He was rigged out.
My old friend Mao, of course,
was just complacent.
one must appreciate he had health issues. So on that score, it seems to have an argument. And but I think the bigger problem for him was really the kind of vacillating he went through in terms of his political choices. At some point, he's out of the parliament and he's back in parliament. So on that score alone, he also doesn't seem to draw a lot of sympathy from some people. That he has not really been straight.
I want to cut some slack.
Even in DP, at one point he indicated he had left. He wasn't going to come back as DP president, but then suddenly he made a comeback and was elected DP president. So, I mean, what Ona is saying about good chairman Mao, there's a bit of question marks about how he has conducted himself in terms of being a consistent national leader. He was a very promising young politician in parliament and, you know, held a lot of potential. Many people are looking up to him as a possible president for the country. And of course, he had a shot at the presidency in 2011 with quite disastrous outcomes for him. You know, he performed so miserably. And now, having run for president, I can't understand why he, you know, wanted to retreat back to go and run for parliament.
Betty Kami has done the same. She ran for president and she's running for parliament.
Yeah, which I think is an ill-advised move to make.
Why?
You see, I mean, if you
Former
are
prime ministers of Israel, prime minister today, they're in parliament in the.
you see, because it's parliamentary.
And it's normal.
Yeah, but you see, because you know, national leaders there are in parliament. Okay, so if for us here, if you've been in parliament and served your time there and left to go and do bigger and higher things for the nation, you don't want to go back there.
Why not?
In fact, for me, just come back for Mao, I think he should have consolidated his leadership as chairman of Gulu district. Yeah. One of the weaknesses in our politics is that so many people want to become president without demonstrating ability to run a geographical entity over time.
Which I think for me cuts the difference. Because Mao's game plan, he was guild president of Makerere.
Yeah.
He was member of parliament for 10 years.
Yeah.
He was district chairman
for 5 years.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
And he had tried to be president. He wasn't successful. He wanted to go back to parliament. I think the Mao that I know would have added value to the quality of debate in that parliament. Sure. The question, his failure to appear on the register, raises for me two questions. One, I do not agree with yes, the sickness was there, but the period for registration and where the register is being picked from. Yeah. One, the national ID registration ran for a full 6 months. Right. No, more than 6 months. Started in April, closed, and then it was extended for 6 months when people could go at leisure and register at the sub-county level. Right. So that was enough period. Yeah. There was the space for update of the voters register, April and May, which you could have taken advantage of. He didn't take advantage of that. Right. So the other explanation don't
but for me, if you want my view on that one, I totally disagree with the Electoral Commission trying to complicate the right to vote. I think so long as there is no double voting, anybody with, in my view, a passport, a driving permit, LC letter, all these people should vote. But also, they are not double voting.
But see, I'm very surprised that a former member of parliament for Aburia is arguing.
By the way, I'm not a former member of parliament. I'm now operating at a different place.
I'm not a former member of parliament. The elections in Uganda and voter registration in Uganda is governed by the law.
You are assuming that I respect that law. Unfortunately, I don't.
I'm shocked to hear that you don't respect the laws in Uganda.
No, I don't respect wrong laws. But the
point I'm making is
he's doing the campaign of the fire.
The point I'm making is elections in Uganda is run under a law. Whether it is a bad law or not, it is under a law. And therefore, the voters register is compiled under a law. You can now not come and say, let somebody who has a driving permit, somebody who has a driver, I don't know why,
passport.
Yeah.
If you want that, talk to your member of parliament, the Honorable Echweru, to make sure that next time they are amending the law, they include that.
Charles,
I
don't believe in the law. I'm an anarchist on that one.
The debate the Mao absence on the register has raised is two things.
Yeah.
The controversy over the development of this particular register hasn't died down.
Yeah.
Number two, if you've served in all those positions, elective positions, and you haven't died, your name should be in the database.
Right.
That gets updated.
Yeah.
So the retirement of the register is one question.
Yeah.
The time when the actual register we're going to use, because you don't know, people have been coming up since Mao came up to say, I registered, I have evidence of registration, but I'm tracking, I'm not sure if I'm on the register or not.
Right.
Is that a question of concern?
Yeah, that should be a question of concern in the way we collect and process data. If it was intended that whoever existed in the old register will automatically be in the new register, that should be written in the law. But if you have written the law that each time we are going for elections, you compile and you retire the old register and compile a new one, and therefore you call people to update themselves, then the onus is on us, the citizens. It shouldn't be the Electoral Commission to ring me.
Yeah, but it shouldn't
be the Electoral Commission to ring
it's one of the problems. We have already talked of the apathy and lethargy. The Electoral Commission must also be dynamic. This updating should have been done through mobile phone, other platforms. The idea of going to your polling station to check on the list. So many people have written.
Actually, the lifeline of the Electoral Commission to do voter education. Of course, we don't have any civic education worth talking about, which is a responsibility of the state. The only attempt at voter education without claiming credit is being done by SEDU. You hardly hear any other voter education going on. But the question is...
Your power.
Yes. And votability before that.
Yes.
Which was trying to rally people to get onto the register.
Why didn't you reach Honorable Mao with your votability? Because I remember you were the one leading that campaign.
He wasn't listening to TV. He wasn't watching.
They reached him. No, but they reached the man, and the man attempted to get himself onto the register, and he was being played around by the EC.
Can we have these concerns about the register? It's been one of the most serious concerns since 1996.
Right. Charles,
the integrity of the voters register.
The question is,
and the ability of eligible Ugandans.
The question is, how can a citizen of the country, and a high-profile citizen at that, like Honorable Norbert Mao, be disenfranchised? What is the justification? I mean, this guy has been a member of parliament, made laws for this country. He has been chairman of Gulu district. He's a national leader, leading one of the national parties, the Democratic Party. How can you say that he shouldn't be on the national register? Ofono is talking about...
Let Ofono answer that question.
Ofono is talking about laws.
He's the one defending the laws.
That law that says somebody who has been voting in successive elections cannot...
And is not dead.
And is not dead. Can be disenfranchised. That law is unconstitutional, and the country cannot be run like that.
Well, you go to the Constitutional Court, so that the court rules in that way. But you do remember, a while back, there was a member of parliament who took for granted about declaration of assets. And remember that member of parliament was kicked out of parliament for 5 years, Honorable Ken Chamizi.
But he won in court.
Yes, I think there is a tendency in this country to take things for granted. And I just want to thank Honorable Mao. His sickness notwithstanding, took many things for granted. He assumed, as you are assuming, that because he's a so-called high profile, having been a member of parliament and so on, therefore, the computer should detect his name automatically and transmit to the new register. That is not the law.
I have seen the wording of the law.
Yeah, the law requires you to register.
I have read the wording of the register, of the law.
And you register in person.
Mr. Pondo, I have read the wording of the law that you're referring to. The responsibility, the role of the Electoral Commission is to maintain. There is a word, to maintain. To update, to generate, maintain, and update. Maintain, in my layman's interpretation, means that you have a register you're working with and you're maintaining.
Right.
You register, you update. But besides that, Mr. Pondo, you are the only person in this studio who has a direct interest in eligibility of Ugandans
To vote.
qualified to vote. Does it concern you that Mao might be one example and he might be on the other side against you, but there might be other people who might find themselves unable?
The elections will be on 5th of
I am concerned that a high-profile person of Mao's caliber did not take the personal responsibility to go and register in person as by law required, in spite of the numerous extensions, as you have noted. I am very concerned. Yes.
Are you concerned that there might be many other people?
Indeed. Be concerned that there are going to be millions, actually. There are going to be millions.
Indeed. For example, you say it is in your layman, and the word layman, maybe you're a layman, but I understand you're doing law. Now,
yes, I'm doing
if a voter has died, take just that scenario, the one you're talking about, that Mao was in the old register. But our law, as you know, says if somebody dies, people must point it out to the tribunal and the person is eliminated. Now, assuming somebody does not point it out, you would actually have dead people on the register. And I agree with you that there could be more than Norbert Mao. But we have also had instances where a presidential candidate is on the voters register, is on the presidential ballot, but doesn't go to vote.
That's a choice. That's a choice someone makes.
Exactly. I also think maybe Honorable Mao made that choice inadvertently.
No,
he did not.
He
has put on the table that he made efforts to get onto the register.
Well, if you make efforts after the date has been closed, what does the rule of law mean? Are you saying that the Electoral Commission should have opened registration because it is Honorable Mao? Is that what you are saying? When it has closed?
In this case, it was ruled by law, not rule of law.
Yes, let me put this to you. In between 2006 and 2011, the percentage drop of voters was a phenomenal 10%. From 69% in 2006 to 59% of registered voters. Meaning that did not account for those who are not even bothered, who fell in the category of Mao, who had not even registered.
Right.
Shouldn't that be a concern for the different camps, that actually so many people are staying away? And one of the issues that came up in 2006 elections was the disenfranchisement.
Well, I think in most elections, general agreed that new voters tend to be anti-establishment. So the fewer the voters, the better for NRM. I mean, if they are to be politically savvy. But you see, most of the younger voters who might be getting in are generally people who are, in quotes, exposed, and they can easily be swayed by opposition sentiment.
Higher voter turnout is bad for Pondo.
But you see, I agree with you, Charles. Every candidate, first of all, we should mobilize our members in the parties to go and register as voters, but also to turn up on the voting day. However, in Uganda, as you know, voting is not compulsory. Even if I register, like I guess the reason many people are on the voters list is that people turned up massively for the national ID. I doubt myself that just because there are many people now on the national voters register, that there is a likelihood of a spike that people will turn up massively to vote, unless we, the campaigners, raise the stakes. If the people in NRM see that there is a likelihood of Yoweri Museveni perhaps losing
or failing to raise the 50%
yes,
+1,
then they will come to vote. And conversely, the other side as well. I don't agree that when people think that it is not possible to remove Museveni, they should stay away. I think it is the more reason. Come and show this Museveni that he is not as popular,
as invisible as
invisible as, and let the NRM machinery also show that although you think you can defeat us, we are undefeatable. And
I think you're speaking like a Topo ambassador. But Moses, as we get out of this studio, what does this say about the credibility? Because one of the major issues, the Electoral Commission has been made to be on the defensive about its independence, but the voters register is one of the biggest credibility tests that always beleaguers the Electoral Commission since 2001 elections. How does this
Charles,
play out?
In democratic theory and in study of politics of election, it's very important that the process, the procedures leading up to election outcomes are credible, and that the players, those who are seeking office and those who are going to vote, believe that the process is going to be credible, fair and credible. Once there is a shadow of doubt on the process itself, forget about the outcome. Okay? See, the outcome ordinarily should be unknown to all of us. We shouldn't know who is going to win the election. But at least we should be sure that I will go to vote and find my name is there and I can vote. Not to go that I'm going to vote and I'm turned away because somehow somebody deleted me from the register. So with this issue
or
of
maybe you're negligent
Mao,
and you didn't. Or your party didn't, your company did not mobilize you to go out and...
So this issue of Mao not being on the register creates a problem of credibility for the register. I mean, Mao was negligent, as many people have accused him of, but you see that's only a symptom of a bigger crisis, surrounding the register. For example, there are question marks about many of the people who are on the register actually eligible to vote. Are they, all of them, are they Ugandans? Are they of voting age? And so on and so forth. So not until we have a register and a overall process leading up to polling that is credible and that is believable by the public, the whole election process becomes rather something that is not worthwhile. And for that matter, many people will not even turn up to go and vote precisely because they don't believe that the process.
And for me, the greatest indicator of trouble for the register is really what happened in the NRM primaries. I mean, the people who are running the NRM and others are definitely not any different from people who are running the Electoral Commission. I mean, people like Sam Rakojo was a member of parliament. So I expect the crisis that was seen in the NRM register to be also seen in the national register, where you had candidates' names missing, let alone having the people to vote for them. So I hope Mao's case is real and eye-opener.
Well, I don't know if you guys are being fair to Sam Rakojo because he's not in the studio.
I'm just giving him as an example. He's the executive director or the secretary of the EC. I'm only saying that they are ordinary Ugandans like the rest of us. And to me, I always see this as a societal problem. First of all, either our competence, but also our commitment to democracy.
Isn't the problem
it's a societal problem.
Ugandans themselves, those who are eligible? Because the individual responsibility is coming into play here. The mobilization, because anybody who is eligible should take it upon themselves to actually go out and vote. Because that failure to go out and vote sometimes makes the difference. I think the framers of the Constitution must have been thinking about that when they said 50% plus one vote. To put emphasis on that individual vote and how it comes.
I always vote, so at least I can speak for myself.
Well, I have voted since the NRSC, the CA. And I think I have taken personal responsibility each time they update. So I think we Ugandans should take these matters as personal responsibility of registration for the national ID and also registration for voters. I want to believe that the people who are on the national ID data bank and who are, because all of them were supposed to be 16 years and above, in the assumption that by the time we go to vote, they will be 18. Now, if Mr. Kisa here is aware of people who are underage and obtained national ID and therefore they are on the voters register, or they are not Ugandans, he should go to the tribunal. But you cannot expect the Electoral Commission to be the one to start snooping around to find out. Because the only way you will be on the National Voters Register is if you registered for the national ID.
No, actually,
and the law is that you cannot vote, you cannot be on the national ID if you are not Ugandan. I think that was the stage at which, if there were any non-Ugandans or any underage people, we should have knocked them out at that stage.
Okay, the question is for people who are eligible, who took the step and actually may not appear on the final register, which you can only answer once the Electoral Commission makes the voters register available.
Yes.
And the second thing is, I think the contradiction of the law is that the Electoral Commission compiles a register of only eligible voters, so 18 and above.
Yes.
Right.
And the mix of the 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds who got onto the national ID register, and the possibility that they might cross over into the voters register is a debate that will continue to have until we see the final register and its integrity is put to test. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you very much all for making time for
Thank you very much for bringing this.
For intimidating
this gentleman of PhD.
Honor is part of the show.
Oh, can't intimidate the former member of parliament.
I can't intimidate a former member of parliament who's in the category of Samru Wakoji.
and you can't intimidate members of the media. You keep trying, including your presidential candidate. He keeps trying to ridicule media people.
I'm a member of the media. And you know we are unstoppable.
A co-opted
member
of the media.
Thank you very much to you all our viewers for joining us tonight, and we'll continue to track these election processes and keep you up to speed. Have a good night.